Hey, we're going to get rolling here this week, and we got harvest that's coming up, and then next week on Monday we have a monthly supply-demand report. And as we head into that report, all the discussion out there right now is what's the USDA going to do with yield. And now today, we're seeing there's a news report that they could adjust the acreage as well in the September report. Typically that's done in October, but that could happen next Monday as well. And so that's what gets all the attention. But what we want to do right here is we want to take a step back and look at world production, because that's where we get the biggest fluctuation, okay, is on global production, and the global markets really is what determines our prices here in the U.S. On this chart in front of us, we have corn production out of the major global exporters: U.S., Ukraine, EU, Brazil, and Argentina. And these numbers are a little bit small in here right now, and this is why I encourage, if you want this PowerPoint, drop us an email and we'll get it sent out to you. But our point is we get a bunch of variability from year to year on these swings. Again, this is just the last 3 years' production. So how much variability do we see in each country that produces crop? Well, here in the U.S. over the last 3 years, from the low production to the high production, corn production has ranged by just over 1 billion bushels. Get to Brazil, and it's been a 1.5 billion bushel swing, and back in the Ukraine and EU, it's around a 400 to 500 million bushel swing from the low to high. Argentina has not had that much swing in production over the last couple of years, but that's an outlier compared to the other 4 countries. Now, when we look at this last one on corn right now and go to the far right on our total, if we just look at the 3 lowest years of production compared to the highest years, you can get over a 3 billion bushel swing on corn production. Okay, if there's major issues all over, you can see where that's going to support prices. But if all cylinders click around the world, we can overproduce a hurry in here when you look at this type of swing in production. When you get over to the bean side of it, we really only have to focus on 3 countries: U.S., Brazil, and Argentina. And if we do it to the next slide in here right now, you can see the U.S., we've had about a 300 million bushel swing in production the last 3 years. But Brazil, it's well over 800 million bushels. Argentina's closer to us, down at 257 million. As we look at our last slide on soybeans, if you get to the far right, you can see a swing in production of well over 1 billion bushels. That is our fear on beans as we look ahead to this next year, as the Brazilian bean crop could be more than 800 million bushels higher this year than it was a year ago. That would substantially put a bunch more beans on the world market, and U.S. beans probably would not be competitive, as Brazil would want to move those out in the world market and look to sell them to China specifically. When I get over to wheat, this wheat chart really gets jumbled up in here as you got the major exporting countries of the U.S., EU, Russia, Canada, Australia, Ukraine, and Argentina. We just raise wheat all over the world. There's a lot of competition. But again, when you look at the swings in production that we've seen over the last couple of years, you're getting into major producers of EU, Russia, Canada, and Ukraine. Their production has swung 400 to 500 million bushels from one year to the next. As we look at the last slide here on wheat, you can get from the low to the high almost at 1.6 billion bushels if they all click. But what's kind of odd with wheat is from year to year, you've had some areas of big crops, some areas of poor crops. That's what's really held these prices together in here. So as we get to the report in here next week, the whole focus is going to be what's going to happen with this corn yield. The USDA was at 175.4 in August on corn and 51.9 on soybeans. You got to lower this corn yield probably down in the 174 range, following along with a pro farmer crop tour saying, hey, this thing's going to be smaller in here. We just don't think this bean crop will get bigger, especially if corn drops down. Long term, though, we need to really focus on what global production is and where our export competitors are producing or their total production is at. The other thing we need to start looking at is 2023. Yes, input costs are going to be high, not only for you here, but also the rest of the world. We just feel that the world is going to plant corn, beans, and wheat and look at the increased acreage. So we need to look at protecting some margins out to 2023. We'll bring you here a text update tonight on the crop ratings. If we get some volatility in here, we'll bring you another webinar. But again, next week we got a supply demand report coming out on Monday, and that'll be our focus as we get towards the rest of the week. Have a great day.